Rotary Club is known for its human service that it does in various fields, and so many people are benefited in whether it is health or education or housing or water or so many necessities. Many people get benefited by the service that all of you do. And so I'm very glad to be amidst all of us here. And the topic chosen is serve and deserve. So I'm going to just start with a small prayer. It's a universal prayer seeking the grace and blessings of the Lord. Many of you may know it, so please join me in that. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. All right. So, serve and deserve. That is our topic. You know, once a satsang like this was happening, and Gautam Buddha was taking that satsang. As the satsang proceeded, there was one person who was sitting right in the front, and the person was feeling sleepy. So as the satsang went on, he was feeling drowsy and then he dozed. So Buddha looked at him and asked, "Are you sleeping?" He said, "No, no, no, no." Again he sat erect and he tried hard to concentrate, but he was really tired, you know. After some time, again he dozed. Again Buddha said, "Are you sleeping?" He said, "No, no, no." And this time he tried to hold his breath and, you know, control himself completely, and still after some time he dozed. Buddha said, "Are you alive?" He said, "No, no, 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 no." And Buddha said, "By mistake you gave the right answer." Think about it. Just because we are having life in us, are we alive truly? What makes us truly alive? When we live a life, you know, people say live life to the fullest, you know, make maximum of your life. What does that mean? As a human being, what is the best that I can do with my life? So it is said the stones, they exist. The plants respond. The animals and birds, they act. Human beings work. And those who are evolved human beings, they serve. So existence is where I just exist. Makes no difference to the world whether I exist or not. Respond. Plants are those who respond. They will respond to nature, to sunlight, to water. Even they will respond to some basic, you know, emotions. Dr. Jagdish Chandra Bose, he found out the plants also have a mind. So they will respond. But the animals, they can act. They act out of their instincts and impulses. They have much more wide range of expression than the plants, much more developed mind. In fact, a very fully developed mind they have. Human beings have intellect. So human beings can work consciously. And many people do work, they achieve great things, they make a difference in the world, you know, they achieve prosperity, they achieve great goals, many things they achieve. In those human beings also, those who are much more evolved, in the sense whose focus is not only on the basic necessities or I, me and mine, they are those who serve. They make a difference to people around. They identify with a cause. And so service is a very beautiful aspect of human life where we can consciously serve. It brings fulfillment to us. It creates an impact on the society and makes us feel our life we have been able to live in a worthy way, where we have been able to not just live for ourselves, but we live for the totality. So today in this short satsang, I'm going to share a few aspects about this service. There is a small presentation that I made, so it becomes more easier for us. I'm just going to share that here on the screen. You will see it. Right. So serve and deserve. Now question comes to us, why to serve? There are so many people all around us. Everybody's life is going on. And we are, we are born, we get educated, we grow, we get a job, we have a, a family. We spend time in making them grow up. We do our duties towards the people in our family, maybe towards some people around us. And why should I serve in all this process? Is it just so that I feel that, I also did something? Or there is a deeper purpose and there's a deeper vision behind service? What is the need for service? So first and foremost, when we think about that question, that when we look around in this whole universe, one very beautiful thing we find in the whole universe is that everybody, there are lots of creatures in this whole universe. All these creatures, they are living their own lives. But when we look closely in whole nature itself, selflessness is something which is there inherent in nature. There is one aspect which is called survival instinct, where the survival of the fittest is the rule. So each one will try to ensure their own safety and security and survival. But apart from that, if we look carefully, there is a lot of selflessness inherent in the whole universe. When we see the stars, the sun, the moon, the rivers, the trees, the plants, the birds, every aspect of nature is giving, is serving. Then as human beings, we are also a part of this nature. Service is something that should come to us very spontaneously because we live together as a whole. That understanding we have as human beings. That when we serve each other, we serve because we are a part of the whole, and coexistence is the way. Those who cannot coexist, those who cannot cohabit, those who cannot serve mutually, they will collapse, they will perish because they go against the law of nature. So in our life also we see that or not. One of the biggest causes of stress, in today's world, so many people go through stress. Stress has become like it's a pandemic, really speaking. Like this corona is a pandemic at a physical level, stress is like a mental pandemic. Now, why is it that people go through stress in today's life? Keeping aside the other factors of maybe competition or unreasonable timelines or any other factors, one of the main reasons why one goes through stress is a simple fact: to the extent I am selfish, to that extent I will have stress. When I don't have selfishness, to the extent I am selfless, I don't have stress. Stress is directly proportional to my selfishness. And so when we go through stress, we have to think about it. One of the reasons why we would be going through stress is there will be something where I'm attached, where I want something for myself, or I want something where I'm insisting that this has to be like this, because through that my image is improved, or through that I will become more happy. That insistence and resistance, they cause stress. And that is born out of selfishness. There is nothing wrong in having self-love, taking care of oneself, loving oneself. But if I love only myself, if I am the most important person in my life and I don't care about anyone else or anything else, then there will be a lot of stress in my life. To the extent I am selfless, there will be happiness. So, I create a lot of these formulas just as memory aids. So one formula we created is the formula for sorrow, the time-tested formula for sorrow. You can apply it. If it doesn't work, money back guarantee. What is that time-tested formula? Insistence plus resistance is equal to sorrow. If I insist that this thing has to be like this situation has to be like this, there will be sorrow. I can expect a certain result, I can work hard, but I cannot insist that this has to be like this. Think about it. So many times we go through stresses. Why? Because we insist. My child must get this percentage. My child must have this type of an education. My business must have this type of targets. My goals must be reached by this time. I must lose weight. How many people are into weight loss? And they set up such targets for themselves, 3 kilos in 3 weeks. Some such target they will put, and they get stressed about that. So expecting is not an issue, but insisting is a big issue. Insistence causes stress to us. Resistance, why this happened to me? I don't want this to happen. Nobody wants COVID to be there. Nobody wanted COVID to happen, but it is there now. What can I do? How much can I resist? Nobody likes to be in a lockdown, but we have to take precautions. The more I resist and the more I insist, there will be sorrow. That is what selfishness brings, where I can't see the bigger picture. But if I involve selflessness, my mind becomes pure. My mind becomes positive. I can see in any situation how to deal with this in a positive, proactive way. So selflessness is a very important aspect, and for that, to be selfless, service is a very important means, where I extend myself, where I think not only about I think about people around me, the society around me, the country, the world, the whole universe. So the more I'm able to let go of my insistence and resistance, that is called renounce. And our culture says renounce and rejoice. That is a spiritual culture. The material culture would say aggrandize and enjoy, acquire and enjoy. Spiritual culture says tena tyaktena bhunjita, renounce and rejoice. Renounce what? When we say renounce, people get scared. Oh God, I have to leave my house, I have to leave my family, I have to leave everything and go. No, renounce where you are. Renounce the selfishness, expand the mind, invoke more love, accommodate, mentally enlarge the heart, expand the boundary, the circle we have kept, these are only my people. That must be expanded. Our culture says we all are one. The whole universe is one. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Means the whole earth. Vasudha eva Kutumbakam. The entire earth with all the beings is one family. So service helps us to expand, and it helps us to let go of our ego, let go of the cause of stress. Also, it is not an optional thing. Many people think service is optional. It is not an optional thing. It is our duty, because we are existing because of the whole universe. If the nature is not what it is, we can't survive. All of them, plants, birds, animals, everything, all the other beings around us, if they are not doing what they are doing, our life will be impossible. So all of us are so deeply interconnected. So service is not an option, actually speaking. It is our duty. This is a beautiful line I read somewhere. Service is the rent we pay to live on the planet Earth. It's the rent we pay. And rent is what? Is it optional? It has to be given every month. Same way, I must serve as my duty. Why? Because somebody served, so I am alive. I must give back. Paid forward, not paid back, but paid forward. Extend it. To make the world a better place, if each one starts thinking about the totality and how to make this world a better place, how many choices we make would be much more intelligent. Think about it. Have we not destroyed our planet because of our selfishness? Today, the planet is going through so many challenges. Environment is going through trouble. There is global warming. There's plastic, which is a big source of pollution. There is noise pollution. There is air pollution. I mean, human being has messed up this whole planet. And if this planet is not enough, now we want to search other planets and try to go there to Mars and Moon and whatnot. Why have we done this? If Earth has to heal itself, just you saw now in lockdown period, when in March there was a complete lockdown, in just 20 days, how Earth healed itself. I'm talking at least about our country. Gangaji became cleaned. The water in Rishikesh became potable, drinkable water as it is. Why? Because industries had stopped, all the pollution going into it stopped. Fresh water is coming from the mountains, cleansed the whole dirt and everything. So many things changed when human being was in the lockdown for those 21 days. How many things healed in nature by itself? So if Earth has to be rid of all its problems, what has to be done actually? Pull this human being out of the earth, whole earth will heal itself. Our selfishness, we have made this planet inhabitable for ourselves and other creatures. How many plants and animals and all of them, the biodiversity we have just destroyed. And how many we continue to destroy even for our taste. Think about that. In spite of Corona coming and so many issues happening where we know that certain diseases jump from the animals to humans, we could avoid many of them if we follow a plant-based diet, which is good even for the environment. Meat industry is the second largest contributor to global warming. Think about that. So how much human being lives only for oneself, and in that process we destroy. So if we really want to make the world a better place, we have to have the attitude of service. And today are people not doing that? They are finding alternates for plastic. I'm sure Rotary also must be taking up so many movements, and I've seen some of the bags which are eco-friendly, jute bags and other types of alternatives which Rotary has brought out. Like that, there are many other initiatives which, whether it is planting trees or cleaning up or many such drives that all of you must have done to make the world a better place. That is a very important aspect. And slowly then to ensure that we don't create more trouble. So one is for relationships. We need selflessness to be in harmony with each other. To work well without stress, selflessness should be there. For the world to be a better place, selflessness has to be there. And ultimately, those who are walking the spiritual path, to drop the ego and realize the absolute, call it God realization, truth, absolute happiness, moksha, whatever name we want. All that can happen only when there is selflessness, and the means to develop that selflessness is service, seva. So Vivekananda used to say this beautiful quote, arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached. They alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. Just think about this. Vivekananda is such a great spiritual giant. And he picked up this from the Upanishads. Uttisthata jagrata prapyavaran nibodhata. That is in the context of a student who must go to a teacher and awaken the knowledge of the truth within. But this can be applied to our daily life also. Arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. What is the goal? Service, purifying the mind, living out of selflessness. And they alone live who live for others. Just think about Vivekananda's life itself. He met Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in 1884, and 1886 Ramakrishna Paramahamsa dropped the body. And Vivekananda was left in charge of so many disciples. There is no formal organization, there is no money, nothing. He roamed in this country for 7 years seeking support. trying to awaken the masses to their cultural glory and heritage. To what extent we were in slumber and tamas, that Vivekananda had to say, you will be closer to heaven by playing football than by studying the Gita. Because such level of inertia, the British were ruling us and we had gone to sleep after that 1857 revolt. People were completely under slavery. No pride, no inner strength. Even the scriptures they are reading is not making them strong enough. So he made such a statement and he tried to create more awareness. But do you know, in his own house, there was such poverty. His father had died and the family came under a lot of debt. His family was under so much of poverty. One of his sisters had committed suicide also. But here is a master who had dedicated himself to the country, to awakening the masses. And finally, how did he manage to awaken? All the way he had to go to America. And he rode in that World Parliament of Religions. Does anybody remember what date he spoke in the World Parliament of Religions? If you know, you can type in the chat. When did he speak in the World Parliament of Religions? Date and year. (1938), no. 11 September, yes. Which is the year? Not 7th August. Yes, year is 1893. Date is 11 September. Now September 11 we know for a different reason, for the Twin Tower attacks. But September 11 is the day which marked a very, very important turning point in the history of our country, because the world view about India changed on that day when Vivekananda spoke there. And when he spoke there, then people here, they became aware, oh, he's such a great monk. Think about it, 7 years he roamed in this country, nobody cared for him. But what did he do? He created awareness from there, came back to our country, served the whole humanity. His whole life was an expression of service. Many examples like that. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam dedicated his life to service. So many Sikh gurus, they have dedicated their life to service. Whether it is, even such industrialists like J.R.D. Tata or Jamshedji Tata, the whole Tata group, they are not in the billionaires list. Why? Because so much of their funds go into charitable organizations and in service of the societies. So the idea here is this: service is a very, very important aspect of life and each one must serve. So now serve and deserve is our main topic. So I thought various ways to reflect on this. Serve a higher vision, deserve greater inspiration. The more higher is my vision. Dr. Abdul Kalam, he said, small aim is a crime. He wrote a song for the youth in his book called Ignited Minds. In that he wrote, small aim is a crime. Now, what is the meaning of small aim? Doesn't mean small target, and big aim doesn't mean big targets. That is one meaning. In this context, small aim means one who thinks only about I, me and mine. Dr. Kalam, he was wanting to be a pilot. He couldn't become a pilot. He couldn't clear the vision test. He was dejected and he met Swami Shivanandaji, who inspired him, and he told him, so what if you couldn't become a pilot? There can be greater things in store for you. Defeat the defeatist in you. There's a defeatist in each one of us saying you are not adequate, you are not competent, you are not good enough, you can't do things, you have to work much harder, you have to prove yourself in the society. He said, defeat that defeatist. How? Hold on to a higher vision. So when he understood this from Swami Shivanandaji, he dedicated his whole life to the field of science, to the field of teaching. He became a scientist. He started serving. Ultimately, what happened? He couldn't become a pilot, but he managed to become the president of the country, who is the supreme commander of all the armed forces, sheerly through the power of dedicated service. And what a glorious person. He became the Missile Man of India, People's President. He was a Vice Chancellor of the Anna University. And when he finished his term as a president and they asked him, sir, you are an author, you are a scientist, you are so many of these different roles you have played, which role would you like to maintain the best? So, you know what Dr. Kalam said? He said, I love the role of a teacher. He came to Rashtrapati Bhavan with 2 bags. He came out just with 2 bags and again went back to teaching. Because he believed that knowledge and addressing the youth, making them dedicated to the country is the way to transform. So he served a higher vision. He didn't live for himself. That's how we remember him even today. So our Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji used to say, higher the vision, greater is the inspiration and deeper is the satisfaction. So each one of us, we can serve with a higher vision. Serve the beloved, deserve more love. Even in relationships, if people serve each other, when we love somebody, we want to do something, we want to give something, we want to serve. Each one keeps waiting that the other person will do for me. If we go out and give, we go out and serve, we go out and love, we will also get. May not be from the same person, but how does it matter? You know, there is no waiting room which is open. People can join on their own. So if somebody is asking me to admit some person, I don't have to admit anybody. People can just join as it is. The waiting room is not enabled. So you can please tell them to just log in with the right link and the password. They will be able to join. So service in relationships also, service is important. So service is not something that we limit only to some special social service. It's an attitude. A mother serves the child. Same way, the spouses can serve each other. Siblings can serve each other. You know, teacher serves the students. Students serve the teacher. In that way, mutually serving each other, giving one's best to each other, one can rise. In the Gita, it is said, Parasparam bhavayanta shreya param avapsyatha. Mutually working together, rise to the highest. If each one keeps waiting, you know, other person must love me, other person must care for me, they must appreciate me, they are not doing this, then I feel miserable, then we will live a very unfulfilled life. But if we say, no, I decide, I go out and serve. If people respond, great, but I love the very act of serving. I love the very act of giving love. That's enough. That person has mastered their life actually. Nobody can make that person miserable. Serve the nation, deserve a greater transformation. Just few days back, we celebrated the Independence Day. Next year, India will be celebrating 75th year of independence. 2047, 100th year. So what are we doing for our nation consciously? You know, our Upanishad say, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. Fifth mantra is not in the Upanishads, but we must take that as our mantra. Rashtra Devo Bhava. May my country be my altar of dedication. How did Japan bounce back after the atomic bomb attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Solely dedicated to their country. What is in the interest of my country, I will do that. So people who dedicate themselves and say nation above self, so many people sacrificed, so many revolutionaries, so many other freedom fighters, they sacrificed their life for us to be free. What are we giving to maintain that freedom? Still the mindset of slavery is there in us. We have a lot to achieve, a lot to do as a country. We can keep criticizing the government, we can keep criticizing everything in and around us, all the systems and corruption and everything. Or we can choose to say, ki, I will do my bit and I will do with the best of my intentions and I am dedicated to my country. What are the flaws? We will try to rectify, but I will speak positively about my country. I am proud of being an Indian and I will know more and more about my country and its culture and its glory. It's not just on 15th August and 26th January. That spirit of nationalism today, unfortunately, people equating nationalism with being fanatic or being a very close-minded person. And many people say nationalism is just a construct. We should not have nationalism. It's a limiting construct. We are global citizens. Why should I care for my country alone? Who said caring for the country stops me from being a global citizen? We respect all women. Does it not? Is it not? Does it mean that I love my mother, so I don't respect other women? No, I love my mother. She's my mother. I still respect all other women. They don't have to be opposite. I love my country and I am still open to all people in the whole world. There's no question of being fanatic in being nationalistic. In fact, it should be. So many countries where the youth are like Singapore or Israel, the youth have to compulsorily go through army training. In Israel, even the women go through. Men go through 2 years, women go through 1 year. Singapore, they go through 2 years, the men. The youth must go through that training. The commitment for the country comes then, immediate. If one generation dedicates itself to the nation, the whole nation will go up very fast. But if we think nothing is there here, what can we do? We want to just go abroad, settle somehow, somewhere, then we can't do much. So what is important is the vision for the country. Service is to have such type of vision that how am I preparing myself? Are we preparing our children, telling them about the glory of this country, making them committed to a cause in this country? Or are we making children only think about their life? Then we are sowing seeds of selfishness in their minds. It's our responsibility to make them aware of the country, its glory, and make them committed also. Each one may be telling them, your career, your life, your promotion, your success. That is one aspect. But it is meant for what? For my country. How did Jijabai prepare Shivaji? How did Vivekananda's mother prepare him? How did Dr. Abdul Kalam's parents make him grow up? His teachers make him grow up. When we read their lives, we understand what role they had to play in infusing the spirit of patriotism in the children right from that age. So we should ask ourselves, what am I doing for my country directly? Don't ask indirectly. Don't say indirectly, my existence is providing a lot of, multiplier effect is there and employment and many other things are happening because of me. No, directly what is my contribution? One whole generation minimum has to think in that way for the country to rise up and then to maintain it. Serve with humility, deserve divinity. When we serve a teacher, when we serve a great master, or when we serve the Lord himself, we discover that we are one infinite absolute consciousness, which is of the nature of bliss. What we are begging outside is our own true self. So serve such liberated masters and deserve grace unlimited. And if the demand is there, you will find those masters. Don't say that they are not there. They are there even today. Even today in Himalayas, there are such Mahatmas who are there. If I have a feeling, if I have this bhavana, that master may come to me directly or I will be led. So it depends on what I really want. So service can be right from my day-to-day life up to the supreme realization. In every aspect of my life, service can make a big difference. So what exactly is service? It is not specific actions alone. That if I have to go out and do some social service, that is one part of service, nobody is denying that. I may serve the poor, I may feed the hungry, I may clothe the people who don't have clothes, I may provide housing, I may provide education, medicine, fabulous service, no doubt. But service is an attitude encompassing the whole life. The motto of Rotary also says that service above self. You know, Swamiji, Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji addressed a Rotary Club on that motto. So we will see one small clip of that also as we go along. So service is an attitude which encompasses whole life. And what attitude it is? It is a mad attitude. So MAD is a acronym. Just for us to remember, M means motivated by a higher ideal. What is that higher ideal to which I dedicated myself? Ordinary person transforms into the extraordinary because of dedication to a higher purpose. Dr. Varghese Kurian, he made India self-sufficient in milk and the largest milk producing nation in the world. Why? Dedicated to the country. One woman, Lakshmi Bai, when she became the Jhansi ki Rani, she led that whole rebellion. When we find a greater cause, the extraordinary potential manifests. Narendra became Vivekananda. Balan, who was an agnostic, became Swami Chinmayananda. So many examples like that one can take of people who were ordinary, but when they found a higher ideal, they transformed. So M is motivated by higher ideal. A, accepting results with contentment and cheerfulness. I give my best, whatever results come, I accept. That's an attitude of acceptance. Prasada Buddhi we call in Vedanta. And D is dissolving doership, Ishwar Arpan Bhav. My seva becomes complete when I say that I am not only serving the people here, I am serving the Supreme Lord. Manav Seva, Madhav Seva. Nar Seva, Narayan Seva. Jan Seva, Janardhan Seva. So when we serve with that attitude that I am not the doer, I am only an instrument, I am here to serve the Lord, then that service becomes a very different means to absolutely realize the self. So this is mad attitude. And why we call this mad? Because you see in the world, people will always say you have to be selfish, you have to be cunning, you have to be manipulative if you want to be successful. Those who are selfless, they will be called mad. But this is the definition of mad. These are people who are inspired by higher ideal, motivated by higher ideal, accepting results, dissolving doership. They live manifesting their full potential and they make a big difference to the whole society. So this spirit of service is what we find in our scriptures given through the understanding of yajna. So when we say yajna, generally people think of yajna as what? Some rite, ritual, havan, pouring some ghee, putting some ahutis. Some people are sitting around the havan kund. So one thinks of it only as a ritualistic thing. But it is not just a ritual. It is a demonstration of the spirit of selflessness. It's a bhavana, yajna bhavana it is called. And so what is the actual meaning of that? When some people are inspired by a higher vision, a common vision, everybody comes together selflessly for achieving that common vision. So for example, let us say that traditional example of the yajna, that there should be rains. So we must do a yajna. Now people will come together, somebody will bring firewood, somebody will bring flowers, somebody will bring the ghee, somebody will bring the naivedya, somebody will do the decorations. Everybody contributes their best for the common cause, sinking their differences. They may not like each other, but they will serve. And when they work together in that way, the results when they come benefits everybody. A ritual was meant for that. Even today, suppose we say that all of us, we have come together for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now Swachh Bharat is our goal. I'm just giving one example. You can take as many like that. Like many of you come together in Rotary to serve in a particular project. So in that way, some project, some inspiring thing where we want nothing out of it, we are doing it for the common good of the society. Then we come together, work together, sinking the differences. We stop, complaining, cribbing. We see what best can we do, putting aside our egos. The result that come benefits the whole society, and I also feel deeply purified, satisfied. So that spirit of service is what we call as yajna. And this spirit of service, when we serve, we should keep these few points in mind, that how to serve so that this yajna bhavana is there and we feel purified. Just like after Havan, the whole environment is purified. The mantras which are chanted, they empower our mind, they empower our breath, they improve our immunity. Many things happens after Havan. Same thing can happen in the spirit of service. So I made an acronym of service. S is for selflessly serve the root cause. Don't serve the effects merely. Serve the root cause. So for example, like we took Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now everybody comes together, works hard for it, ensures that we don't pollute the place, we follow proper hygiene, cleanliness, we have the dustbins, the garbage disposal system and all those things. And we work hard, then the results come to all. Now that is one part where I am taking care of being clean, not putting things there. Or if there is some place where it is already unclean, then we go as volunteers and clean up the place or clean up the lake. Many things can be done to clean. That is serving the effect. But serving the cause also I should do with that, not just the effects. That what is the cause? Why are people littering? So spread more education, more awareness, make them understand the benefits, provide them facilities so that they, for the lack of it, they don't pollute. That is called serving the cause. Like drugs. In Chinmay Mission now, this year we have taken up this drug demand reduction awareness because it's a big problem with the youth, where drinking, alcohol, drugs has become like very common, and they think that we have to try everything in life. So I generally tell them, yes, if you want to try everything in life, then you should try potassium cyanide also. What kind of a logic is that to try everything in life? Have some discriminative ability. But there is a lot of issue with that. So one aspect is to rehabilitate those who are already going through that. But the second is, the cause is what? The cause is the youth don't have proper guidance, proper inspiration. The confidence levels are low, competitiveness is high, peer pressure is there. So many of these are the causes. Now we have to handle the causes. So in Chinmay Yuva Kendra, we do a lot of programs, projects, engage the youth creatively, empower them with knowledge, and they come out to become strong young individuals who can serve the society. So service must have both aspects. Let me serve the effects as well as the cause. If I continuously serve somebody and make them dependent, then that service will no more remain service. It will become a complete helpless, hapless dependence. So E is for empower the served. Don't make them dependent. Like I may provide monthly, let us say, expenses of a particular family to take care of their food and take care of their rent and the education, etc. But how long will I keep doing that? If I am able to make them self-sufficient, give them education, find an employment for them, or help them to become entrepreneurs, help them to do some startup, give them some capital, loan, whatever, then I am serving the cause that the family has become independent. I'm sure many of your projects will be like this, where the service is happening not just of the effect, where you ultimately make them independent, because then that is true service. It cannot be only I keep on providing aid. Then that is weakening the people whom we are serving. We have to empower those whom we are serving. Gather resources, whatever resources required for it. Whatever is my field of service, in that, to make the service effective, whatever resources necessary, I must be able to get together. Whatever people are required. It may be somebody with whom I have a big difference of opinion, but if that person is skilled and able to do, I must be ready to work with them and try to reach out to more and more people to expand the team of service. Otherwise, what happens? 5, 6 people keep serving and the whole burden of work is on them. They feel finally burnt out. And they also feel frustrated, you know, nobody comes, nobody helps, nobody serves, we have only to do everything. So let there be reaching out, let there be expansion of the team, and serve with a vision of oneness. We are not obliging anybody by serving. Like you will see in Gurudev's video, he will say that our whole body is just this one entity. We are not, you know, different people. One entity is this body, though each part of the body is different. So if the hand has to go and scratch the calf muscle, the hand doesn't say that what am I going to get, because it's one. So the vision of oneness is very, very important to serve, that we are serving because we are one family. Either we say that we all are human beings, so I can't see the suffering of a fellow human being and let me go and see what I can do about it. Or we say we are belonging to the same country, or, you know, we are living beings, whatever level of oneness it can be. The more I see oneness, the more there will be love. More there is love, more there will be service. Have an attitude that I am an instrument and be grateful that I have an opportunity to serve. Instrument attitude and gratitude. Without us also service will happen. Bhagavan doesn't need us to do work. We need opportunity to serve, to purify ourselves. In the Gita, Arjun is told by the Lord, Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Oh Arjun, be an instrument. Even if you are not there, these people will get destroyed. Rite pitvam na bhavanti sarve. So just be an instrument. I am the doer, he says. Same way, we know that we are an instrument. If we have some resources, if we have some knowledge, we have some talent, we have some wealth, we are an instrument to serve the society. That way one should become empty. And this is the attitude of service, that the cause is more important than I. So my name, my fame, my recognition, and people have to clap and applaud me. Let go of that need. If it is happening, let it happen. That is different. But deep need inside for name, fame, recognition, that I have to bundle up and throw it away to really come to serve. Because otherwise our service will become very limited. Our ego will prevent us. And we will do only what we feel will give us recognition. We will not truly serve. So that in service has to be important, that the care and love of the cause is more than I and my recognition. And lastly, it is effortless. Let me serve effortlessly. 24/7, let me have an attitude of service, that what can I give? In this particular situation, how can I give? How can I serve? So this is the vision of oneness. Oneness leads to love. Love leads to service. Service brings about a massive change in the society that makes the society happy and strengthens the vision of oneness. So in this way, service is born out of this sense of vision of oneness and love. So I should ask myself that what is the level of oneness that I feel? And is that generating love in my heart or not? The more it generates love in my heart, the more capacity I have to deal with any challenges that come. And there will be a lot of challenges which come in service, because usually selfishness is the way. Now when we take selfless way, there will be challenges from inside, there will be challenges from outside also. But if I have the vision of oneness and love, I will persist. and I will continue to serve. So here is the clip that I spoke about, where Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji had addressed the Rotary Club, and there he speaks about this vision of oneness.
In order to develop this love, which is natural for everyone in yourself, from top, the crown, to the tip of your toe, you love you, isn't it? Even though the hands are not the legs are not the toes are not the fingers, the finger is not like the nose is not like the ears. Every part is different in shape, in name, and in function. What the eyes can do, the ears cannot do. What the nose can do, the tongue cannot do. They have got different functions. What the hands can do, the leg can never do. Within me, myself, there are so many different shapes, forms, purposes, or functions. And yet, am I not one? From the tip of the toe to the top of my crown, am I not one? How do you feel that is oneness? The hand is not the leg is not the thumb is not the nose, and yet I say is one. How? I pervade every cell in me. You may be 250 pounds, 6-footer with 60 chest. And if I bring a pin and say that for what you have done, we have decided that the pin must be put in, you choose, because democracy, you choose where it should be put. Right? In that huge body, this little pin, you cannot choose any place. You choose every place and say, no, 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 no. Until at last you say, if you must put the pin, why not try it on my neighbor? Why? Because every cell you love equally, because you know that it is me. Within your body you have got the feeling. In your body also. It is very often happens that your own finger goes to your own eyes. Has it not happened to you? Have you not beaten your own tongue? Even if you are the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, sense of justice, will you say that this finger unnecessarily went and hit the eyes? The eyes was always serving the finger whenever it was doing any work. It's unprovoked aggression. Isn't it? Like Sadat, let us go and chop off the finger as an example for the entire body politic, that there must be discipline in the body. Will you say that? When it is your own finger that goes to your eyes, immediately all the 5 fingers together as a committee goes to the eyes and start rubbing it, and then silently saying, I am sorry, I never meant it. Isn't it? The eyes, though watering, it is red, but it cannot even open the eyes. But I open the eyes and look at the finger and silently say, I know it, and I forgive my finger, isn't it? Supposing it is the finger of the man who is sitting next to you came in your eyes. Your sense of justice is cut his finger off. Let him learn how to. Why? He is something different from me. My friends, when you start really analyzing it, the whole world is your body. Just as every cell in you is so sacred, every living being in the outer world, every mineral piece in the world outside is a part of you. It is not anything other than you. With this understanding when comes a sense of goodwill towards all living beings, that they are not separate from me, service then becomes not a service before self or after self. It will be service as when my, let us say, calf muscle is scratching. My hand goes and scratches. Does the hand ever say, leg, if you have got scratching, you scratch. Why should I do it? What will you give me for scratching? No, I run there and do it, isn't it? Why? The joy of that is the joy of the whole body. It is not only the leg, but it is the hand also. The comfort comes to the hand also. In the same way, wherever there is sorrow that I see, I run there and try to remove and wipe off as much as possible the tears of others, not because they are others, but they are my own sorrow. If this universal vision has come, and this is what Vedanta asks you, all the devotees are seeing Ram everywhere, meaning that one reality everywhere. Once you see that, the sense of plurality goes away. These distinctions at national level or communal level or even individual level was all wiped out into one divine presence. With this unfoldment in yourself, you shall find that the world is preserved. Even now the world is not destroyed. Only you create a destruction for yourself in the world. That is all. You make a hell of this world, but the world is staying there. If you stop doing this mischief, the world will reorganize itself. Learn to serve others without selfishness.
So that was a beautiful, inspiring video of Pujya Gurudev. How he gave this wonderful example of one body, same way the whole world is our body. So these great masters, they serve out of fulfillment. See, we serve to purify our mind. We serve to become more and more quieter so that we can realize the self in us. But the great masters, they serve not because they want anything. We serve for happiness. They serve from happiness. And so we find that their life itself is an expression of service. They want nothing for themselves. You see, these people work out of fulfillment. So for them, it's an expression of their fulfillment they've experienced. They see the sense of oneness. Like Gurudev said, wherever they see sorrow, they try to go and help. So many great masters have done that type of service. Like Adi Shankaracharya ji, or Swami Vivekananda ji, or Gautam Buddha, or Jesus, or Mahavir, any of these great spiritual masters, they did not go to any IIT or IIM or an ISB, or they did not get any such degrees, or they did not achieve anything for themselves. But we still remember them today. Why? Because what they achieved, even multinationals cannot achieve today. Tell me one multinational organization which is more than 1,000 years old. Shankaracharya's mathas are standing even today, 1200 years old. Gautam Buddha trained 500 monks much before Shankaracharya ji. Today Buddhism is growing so fast in the whole world. Why? Because the foundation is selflessness. See, there's no point. Nobody is saying we don't need industries. We are talking about service here. We are talking about the fact that when people become 100% selfless, look at the impact they make on the world. That for millenniums together, people are still following what they are saying. Jesus trained how many? Few fishermen were around him in Galilee. But look at Christianity today. Any of these great masters. The point is, when ego has gone completely, our service has to lead us to that state. The culmination of service is in this state where we become fulfilled, where nothing more remains to be gained for us. Then our whole life is an expression of service for others completely. So that is called service above self, and that is what serve and deserve is all about. So that's where I stop for today. If anybody has anything to ask, you want to share anything, you are welcome. At the end, I have just 2 announcements to make that I will make. But if anything you want to ask or you want to share, you are welcome. You can raise your hand and you can ask the question. Yes, Sunil ji and Vanamali ji. 1 minute. Huh? Yes, you would have got a notification to unmute. Please unmute and answer.
Yeah, can I ask question now, sir?
Yeah, please ask.
So you mentioned 2 points. One is about some people working and there's a burnt out because they work and load comes on them. And the other point was that some people get evolved and they try to serve. You know, these are the 2 things that I gathered from your talk. The point is, is it part of our teachings that every citizen or every human being should serve X hours a week for the service of the others, and also issue guidelines like, okay, fine, 3 to 5% of your income must be devoted for these kind of cause, because the evolved human beings are like 10% or 20% in the society. For the masses, should not there be a guideline saying, look, please spend 3 hours a week in service of the others and spend some X percentage of your income for the well-being of others? Will these guidelines not help make the whole society service-oriented?
See, definitely the guidelines would help. There is no doubt about that. And in some cases, the guidelines are there also. Like CSR is there as a guideline. In education, it can be brought in for children. It can be brought in for the youth. And many education institutes, they value community service. So they find out how many young people have devoted, so how many number of hours in community service. And so especially many foreign universities, etc., they value that a lot. Same way in India also. So now, no doubt those are important and those can be incorporated and implemented. But we also need people who are actively depicting that in daily life for the younger generation, for the children to see as role models. So both these are very important. And then this can happen. Yes, Vanmali.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Haji.
Swamiji, it was, I mean, it's always a learning, experience for us whenever anyone talks to us from Chinmayananda Mission. And you are, of course, I mean, we have heard so much about you, and whatever you said today was so much which we think we know, but yet when it put into words, then we really know what we know. Well, the point here is the young minds, which you very rightly said, we have to make them feel the national fervor. Today, what is happening is we tend to tell our children they have to do their best in life and finally go to the US and work there. Okay, this is what is the final thing, right?
Correct.
Now let's say, okay, myself and my wife Lata, we have lost the chance. Both our kids are working in the US. Okay, they're probably not going to come back. Okay, that apart. But we are Rotarians. We would like to do something for the interactors. We have a Rotary also in the form of interactors. So, is there a module or is there a video talk or something like that which we can show to these kids, which will give them some motivation and some fervor towards the nationalistic spirit? Is there some kind of video or something like that which we can pick up from Chinmayananda and show it to the kids in the interact?
So we had a whole movement called Awakening. 2 movements we had: Awakening Indians to India and Transforming Indians to India. Awakening Indians to India and Transforming Indians to Transform India. These were 2 movements which we did. For Awakening Indians to India, that was our first movement. In 2002 we did it. There's a 500-page book which has many achievements of India. Because see, for somebody to dedicate themselves to a cause, they must know about that and feel proud. So if they have to love the country and dedicate themselves to the service of the country, they should know what the country is about. Because a lot of data which is fed to us in the education system is a biased data, is not real history. And we know that doesn't give much pride to us. Then there are various other distortions which are there all around in the media that, the youth, they really get confused. So we brought out this one book, and there are many other videos of various celebrities who have spoken on one great aspect of India. Because each one speaking on one great aspect of India inspires the youngsters. It's a short clip. Like Vishwanathan Anand spoke on how Indians founded the chess, or Kajol, the actress, she spoke on the Jaipur fort, or Nafisa Ali, she spoke on the iron pillar at Delhi. Like that, there are video bits which are there. So this is about how to create pride in the country, in the minds of the youth. Then the second is the transforming Indians to transform India, where there are 7 levels of transformation which are given. So the theme video of that also is there, where we show how an individual who transformed impacted the whole country. So there are about 10 to 15 examples in that video. And there is a book along with that, which has 7 levels of transformation. So how can a youngster prepare oneself at physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, cultural, patriotic, and universal level? And we do workshops on these for the youth. And these are all free workshops. When they go through the 7 levels of transformation, either they can go through all 7 or they can choose any 1, 2, 3, whatever they like. In Mumbai, we have done it across the country, across whole Mumbai, and more than some 1700 workshops we already done so far. And it's an ongoing thing. So if you want to do that, we can work it out. Sunil ji can give you more details about it also. And for the Interact group of youngsters, 1 or 2 workshops can be done, and then they can see how they want to take it up. Specifically, if you want patriotic transformation and cultural transformation, can definitely be done for them. And these videos can be shown as a part of it. And it is a general motivational session which we can conduct for them, and then see how to take that forward.
Yes, thank you very much, Sunil. Thank you very much.
Hanuman Tripathi ji. Okay.
No, Sunil Kamble, no? Sunil is kept on saying Sunil. Sunil Kamble, fellow introduced him. I think
Sunil Gambani ji, who is here on the screen, you may see.
She's writing
to contact him.
Guruji, Sadar Pranam.
Haji.
So my question is very generic, and I know there is no real answer, but I always keep seeking this, that why, despite having such a strong religious fabric in India, and also I think in most countries, and such powerful following in religion, why is corruption so huge? And why is corruption not going down? And why is it that countries which are much smaller than us, of course, the difference between have-nots and have has been bigger in our country, but it has been there in many other countries. But how is it that some countries have conquered this corruption at the general population level, and they may still have it at the defense and those mega expenditure level, but we are not able to cope up on corruption for last 75 years on the road, and which is what hurts us, despite having the most powerful fabric of religion and learning and fear of God and rights and wrong and so on and so forth. And while you do answer about this, do please cover 1 minute for Mr. Vanmali on the Bal Vihar part, because that's a very important chapter for small children. So do just cover that up for us. But this, if you can answer for us, even as on a lighter hand, it will be very nice. Thank you very much.
So, you see, knowledge, when we have, knowledge by itself cannot do any transformation. It is how we use the knowledge that will bring about a transformation. I may see a rose, that this is a rose. Now that knowledge that this is a rose will do nothing. It is recognition. Knowledge is to recognize, is to know. If I am a poet, I may compose poetry. Somebody is a botanist, will start analyzing the botanical structure. If somebody is an artist, will start painting. What they do with that knowledge is dependent on them. So though there is so much deep spiritual knowledge in the whole country, on one hand, that knowledge must give us more and more strength, and it helps us to live more selflessly, more in the attitude of dedication. But on the other hand, if we don't use it, we don't apply it, it just becomes a means of vanity for us, that I know this book also, I can quote from that book also, I have studied this, I studied that, which is what has happened. One of the reasons is that. Other reason also is that we have been made to sincerely and strategically look down upon our own scriptures. It has been portrayed as mythology, it has been portrayed as not real, it has been portrayed as being primitive, and barbarians have written the Vedas and whatnot. All kinds of nonsense has been fed into our head. So 2 generations which have grown up with no respect for that scripture at all. So in spite of knowledge being there, it is not there in the life of those people who are going to make a difference to the society and who are the future leaders. Because sadhus, sannyasis, spiritual organizations, scriptures, religion, God, karma, everything has been systematically destroyed so that the backbone of this country is finished. We have to know that there are lots of conspiracies within India, outside India, to destroy this Sanatan Dharma. Tell me one civilization which has survived in this whole world from pre-Bronze era. Ours is the only civilization that has survived. Greek civilization, Mesopotamian, Macedonian, Egyptian, Roman, all of them gone, wiped out. Because there are various vested interests, there are various other fundamentalistic approaches which are to wipe out the other people. The philosophy of live and let live is not there. It has to be only I. When those types of philosophies are attacking continuously, then what do? This country, in spite of all that, has resisted a lot. If the Sikh gurus were not there, if Chhatrapati Shivaji was not there, if the Ahom dynasty was not there, if the great people in Kashmir were not there, the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, so many of them, you see, there are lots of people who have given tremendous amount of sacrifice to preserve, protect this culture, not convert and not fall for any other threats to life. That has maintained this culture even today. But we have not made people aware. The Hindu genocide is the greatest genocide in the whole world. Today, Hindus are not wanting to speak about being a Hindu because it has been fed into our head that I am a secular person. Are Hindu is by nature secular, Baba. It has nothing to do with politics. Forget your politics aside. Just open the scripture and see. In the Gita, there is no word called Hindu. The general pronoun is used, yaha, whoever it may be. Whoever applies this will get this result. It's a universal pronoun. There are so many such factors about our scriptures and we have not opened and we have not read. So we feel ashamed. We feel we don't want to call ourselves as a proud and practicing Hindu. How many people do Gayatri Mantra and do the Gayatri Vandan Sandhya? So many have just stopped it. It will go outside. Those guys will do sun worship. Today sun worship is very big out there. And Amazon will start selling sun worship kit, then our people will start running behind that. What are you doing? I'm doing sun worship, Are Gayatri Mantra Sandhya is our culture, Baba. The whole world has taken it and now it is being repackaged and coming back to you as sun worship. So we have not had that pride. So we are not living that culture. So our younger generation is leaving it. Now, after Ananta Chaturdashi, Shraddha Kal will come, Pitru Paksh will come. How many people do Shraddha? They don't do it. Why? Because they don't know the meaning of it. They think that it's only all mumbo jumbo and there's nothing like that. There's no life after death and there's no Pitrus. It's all useless and these Pandits are exploiting. It is meant for them. There may be people who are exploiting. There is no doubt and we should condemn that and we should not encourage that at all. But has exploitation not been a part in all other fields? Today corruption is in all fields or not? Will you stop going to a hospital because there is corruption? Will you stop going to a school because there is corruption? Will you stop going to judiciary because there is corruption? Then why have you stopped religion? Why have you stopped studying the scriptures? Why have you stopped doing your ritualistic practices? But we have stopped all that. Now when we stop all that, what will be the most important thing? My life, my money, my prosperity, let the whole country go to dogs. I care about only I. That's why we are in corruption. Our saffron color is the first color of the flag. That means sacrifice. What to sacrifice? Sacrifice selfishness. And don't say that everybody is selfish, so I will also be selfish. Then as a society, we will fall only. What else can be done? Individual. That's why I transform, India transforms. That is our slogan in that movement, transforming Indians to transform India. I transform, India transforms. You transform, India transforms. We transform, India transforms. It cannot happen as a mass movement. It will happen from individuals only. And it has to spread to individuals. So that is a very important need. Until the need is not felt by the people, corruption will not go. How many people really want to have corrupt-free India? If that number becomes majority, they really want corrupt-free India. Nobody can stop them from being corrupt-free. But we don't have the deep desire to be corrupt-free. We want to be corrupt. Let other fellow be selfless first. They should prove that first to me. Then I will start living selflessly. Now each fellow is waiting for the other. But somewhere the beginning has to be made by somebody. So that's why what you said about Bal Vihar or Chinmay Yoga Kendra, that is important. So we have now one wing of Chinmay Mission, which is even younger than Bal Vihar, which is called Shishu Vihar. It starts from 6 months onwards. And the curriculum from 6 months to 5 years is only God. In Bal Vihar, we have other things. We have country, we have culture, we have other values, and those things are brought in. In Shishu Vihar, it is only God. So there are lesson plans made about Krishna, about Durga, about Devi, about Shiva, about Ganesha. And children are taught because their mind is young. The seeds of divinity can be sown in such young minds, it will go very deep. So children can be admitted into Shishu Vihar classes. We have it all over the world, Bal Vihar classes. Lots of details of this you can find on our website. ChinmayMissionMumbai.com is our website of Mumbai, and ChinmayMission.com is our global website. So wherever you are, you can find all these details and enroll the youngsters, please. And when the small children, youngsters, teenagers, when they join these things, slowly it creates a difference in their mindset, and through that we want to create a difference in the whole country and the world at large. So today we will stop here. I will just make those 2 announcements that I want to make. You will see them on the screen. So first announcement is that, as I said, this is our mission, Chinmay Mission Mumbai website. You can find details of many upcoming programs here. You can connect with me using the handle called Chinmay Shivam, and these are various social media platforms where you can connect with me. Then we have upcoming 2 talks series. One is called Smile, because right now a lot of people going through stress due to Corona and other situations. So let us learn to smile in life. So based on the Gita, we have these 5 evening talks, each on a different topic. Stress to strength, moodiness to mind balance, inferiority to inspiration, loneliness to love, ego to ecstasy. All these are free talks online on Zoom like this, and from 2nd to 6th September, evening 7 to 8:30. All of you are welcome, and please inspire many youngsters and middle-aged group to attend, because these are topics which will influence them directly in their lives. We are not talking about high philosophical things. These are practical things which will affect them even today. Like so many youngsters getting into depression and even suicide. So because inferiority, because of loneliness, because of moodiness, because of stress. So let us try to empower our youth. And second is from 10th September, every Thursday evening, I will be taking talks on Gajendra Moksha. This is the stuti from Bhagavatam, where the elephant king is saved by the Lord. And a beautiful stuti where he prays for freedom from not only the clutches of the crocodile, but from the sorrow of samsara itself. So both these talks, entry is free. You have to just register at this Google form. You can take a screenshot of it. Please be alphabet sensitive. http:/bit.ly/S capital Swatman, S capital again, Satsangs. So you just register here and you will get an email in return, which will have the details about 3 groups. You can join any of the groups. 2 are WhatsApp group, 1 is a Telegram group. So you can join any of the groups, and on the day of the satsang, we share the Zoom details just to keep security, because otherwise, Zoom bombing can happen. So we don't send out the details in a mass forum. You have to register here and then join one of the Telegram or WhatsApp groups, and there we will share the details. So that is what I wanted to share. Thank you very much. It was nice to be with all of you and wonderful opportunity. Thank you very much.